about that. We are in week 3 of this series called It's Complicated. It's Complicated. We talked about friendships, we talked about dating relationships, and tonight we're talking about family. Yeah, and you want to talk about things being complicated, sometimes family can be really complicated. Because family, you spend a lot of time with your family, and that means that the little things can start to get under your skin. People start to get real annoying, especially if you have a little brother named Emmett. I'm just kidding. That might it's almost in our blood to fight with siblings, right? I mean, you think about the first ever siblings, Cain and Abel. One of them ended up killing the other one. And my brother and I, we grew up fighting about everything. Like, if you could fight about it, we would find a way to fight about it. We would fight with words. We would fight with fists. We would fight with feet on occasion. We would throw things at one another. It was crazy. My poor mother had to deal with 2 boys who were about 15 months apart. We were very close in age. And so we competed in everything. We fought about everything. And then my little sister came along, and we started teasing Ruby all the time. And so she's got to put up with 2 older brothers. But as you can think about your own families, we know that family can get complicated. That we all have different family lives. We all have different siblings. Some of you might not have a sibling. You might have just all sorts of different situations. And when it comes to family, the Bible has a lot to say about it. But tonight we're going to focus in on the relationship between a child and their parents. This is something that we can all relate to. We were all children, right? We all have parents. We were all born into a family. And things can get complicated. But God has a lot to say. So go ahead and turn to Ephesians chapter 6. Ephesians chapter 6. My parents and I, we didn't fight a ton. But the thing that I remember especially being annoyed about from high school is curfew. Anyone have a curfew? For real? No one has a curfew. All right. Curfew is when you have to be home at a certain time. You know, like, you ever heard that idea? Yeah. It's clicking. So it was crazy. I was old for my grade, so I got my license my sophomore year. And I had a curfew of 10 o'clock, which sounded pretty early to me. I didn't like it. And I would have to leave Friday night football games during the third quarter to make it home by curfew. And man, I would get so upset, and I would push back. I would argue with my mom, and let me tell you, I lost every single one of those arguments. It baffles me still to this day that I never won one. It was crazy. But we tend to bicker and to fight with our parents sometimes. We don't always understand the reasoning for things that they do or the things that they tell us what to do. And so we're just going to dive into what the Lord has to say about it. So let's read the first 4 verses here. It says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, because this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may have a long life in the land. Fathers, don't stir up anger in your children, but bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord." Guys, Paul gets right to the point here. He says, children, obey your parents. Is sermon over? Children, obey your parents. That's what Paul says. He says, in the Lord. And that little phrase stuck out to me as I was reading this. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. And what's interesting in the original language here in the Greek is that in the Lord is attached to obey. It's not attached to parents. And so what Paul's not saying is that you only need to obey your parents if your parents are believers, if your parents are in Christ. I'm sure some of you might have parents that don't believe in Jesus, and that doesn't mean that you don't obey what they have to say. What he's saying is that you, when you are in the Lord, those of you who are believers, you are to obey your parents. What he's saying that it pleases the Lord when you obey your parents, when you keep their commands. And he continues to keep it simple. He says, because this is right. Because this is right. And to me, this sounds like my least favorite reasoning that my mom ever had for something. And it was because I said so. Anyone ever heard that from their parents before? Why, Mom? Because I said so. And that always frustrated me. Because I'm a rational person. I'm a logical person. I want to know the reasoning. And it took me a long time to learn that my parents don't owe me a reason. And that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes because we want to know the reason. We want to know why. But so often our parents have a reason for something that we don't know or we don't understand. Because we have this natural thing in us that pushes back against authority. Because when I read this first verse, obey your parents in the Lord because this is right. I don't know about you, but sometimes I start thinking of, well, what about this scenario? What about in this situation? Jesus, do you really mean at all times I'm supposed to obey my parents? I don't know about you, but I'm not seeing any clauses here. I'm not seeing an out that Paul gives us. He's saying, obey your parents because this is right. I was reading one commentary, and it said this is a natural law. If you ever heard of the natural law, there are things in every society of people throughout the world that just tend to be true. Every human naturally knows that it is wrong to take another life. We just know that it is wrong to lie to somebody or to steal their things. Everywhere you go, you're going to see that that is wrong. It's built into who we are. And this commentator was also saying it's built into this life that we obey our parents. If you go to any society around the world, children are expected to listen to their parents, right? That's how God designed the family. That's how He designed this, that we obey our parents who are given to us because it pleases Him. And then in verse 2, this goes all the way back to the Old Testament. Paul quotes from Exodus chapter 20 here. He says, honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may have a long life in the land. This is interesting. The first command with a promise. This promise is two things. It says, so that it may go well with you and that you may live a long life in the land. Let's start with the first one. These are two general commands. He's not saying anything specific, but he's saying in general, it goes well with you to honor your father and mother. What does this mean? It means that your parents want what is best for you. They want to see you succeed. They want to see you grow. They want you to be a successful person in this world, and it will generally go well with you to listen to what they have to say. Has anyone ever seen the movie Finding Dory? Yeah? Or Finding Nemo? Let's talk about Finding Nemo. I've never seen Finding Dory. Whoops. Is it good? I'll probably never watch it. Finding Nemo. What happens with Finding Nemo? His dad tells him to not go into the deep water. And what does Nemo do? Nemo goes for a little swim, right? And he gets caught by a fisherman. He ends up in a dentist office. How crazy is that? What would have happened if Nemo had just listened to his dad's advice? To, hey, Nemo, don't go swim in that dark water or that deep water where people fish. Our parents tend to have sound advice for us. They tend to have good things to say because we don't always know how this world works. My dad's favorite saying is, I thought I had everything figured out in high school. I thought I knew everything. And he would say, Ethan, you don't even know what you don't know. I was like, oh, what the heck does that mean? What are we talking about, Dad? You don't even know what you don't know. Is I didn't even know the things that I thought I knew that I didn't actually know. As you get older, you start to learn things, and you didn't even know those were things you could learn. It's crazy. Like your parents have good things to tell you. They want what's best for you. They're trying to help you. And so we honor them. And then this second promise is that you may live a long life in the land. I think this one's really cool because he's not promising that you're going to live to 100 years old. What he's saying here is that the parents were given the responsibility to teach the Jewish law to their children. And what happens if the Israelites broke the Jewish law? If they didn't keep God's commands, they would lose the land they lived in. They would go into exile. They would follow the ways of other gods. They would not follow Yahweh, the one true God. And so what he's saying is if you listen to your parents who are teaching you the law, and you keep these laws, you will live a long time in this land that God has given them. And so for so many of you, your parents are raising you up to follow Jesus. They're teaching you the scriptures. They're teaching you how to follow Christ, how to live in this world as a Christian. And the last thing he says in verse 4 is, fathers, don't stir up anger in your children, but bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. I won't talk too much about this verse because I'm hoping none of you become fathers anytime soon. So you shouldn't have to worry about that. We're going to skip right to, what does it look like to honor your parents? It's listening to them. Guys, it's that simple. What does it look like to honor your parents? It's to listen to them. And we don't always like to listen. Sometimes we have our own plans, our own ideas. Sometimes you're looking at the screen and you're not even hearing what they have to say. And that probably annoys your mom or dad when they're trying to talk to you and you're not hearing them. But we honor our parents by listening and obeying them. Here are some examples. When they ask you to clean your room, you obey them by doing what they asked you to do. And my mom would always say, delayed obedience is disobedience. As if she wants the room cleaned today, that room's got to get cleaned today. That doesn't mean next week or the weekend. She asked you today. Learn that one the hard way. When they ask you to not watch a certain show or movie, it is honoring to them to listen and to not watch the thing they asked you not to watch. Because guess what? They had a reason for not wanting you to watch it, even if you don't understand it. Which is hard, guys. I understand. Is when we don't understand, it's hard to listen. But there's going to be a lot of things in this world that you don't understand. And I want to know everything. Like, that's part of my personality. I want to know and understand, but there are so many mysteries in this world. And you might just not understand why your mom or dad asked you to do something, but they're asking for your benefit. When they ask you to put your phone away at a certain time, they have rules around this for a reason. Even if they tell you that we can't stop at McDonald's because we have food at home, and you're eating leftovers for the second night in a row. Guys, food's expensive. Let me tell you, stop at McDonald's costs a lot of money, and food in the fridge is a good thing. Let me tell you. When you start spending your own money, yeah. Well, oh, and you told me you spent $17 at Dairy Queen today? That's crazy. That's crazy out there. I bet your mom had food in the fridge for you. Talk about family. It's complicated. I'm sorry. Where were we? We could go on down the list. Like, your parents ask you to do a lot of things. How about this one? When they discipline you, respecting their decision. Here's another one we don't always understand. Sometimes it feels unjust. The punishment does not fit the crime. But when your parents lay down the law, there's a reason. Like, discipline is a good thing that really hurts in the moment. You're probably not sitting there thinking, man, I am so glad that my dad is mad at me right now. That I am so glad to not see this phone for the next 2 weeks. I cannot wait to not see my friends this weekend. It's tough. But the discipline's for a reason. Is you probably did something wrong. You probably didn't listen to what they said. And so we have to respect when they execute discipline, when they take something away. And here's the thing, guys. We don't just sit there and be angry about it. You got to learn from the discipline. That's the whole point of being disciplined, is that you don't do that thing again. Or they're going to keep taking your phone for longer. You're going to not see your friends for even longer. There's reasons behind all of things. How about this one? To be gracious when your parents are wrong. Whoa. Breaking news. Your parents might not always be right. Don't tell them I said that. But your parents are human. They're people too. They might make a wrong decision. They might be stressed out at work and snap at you. How do you respond when your parents do something wrong? Because, man, it is easy to let them know, right? It's easy to let them know, hey, this was wrong. You did this and this. This is why it was wrong. You lay out the reasons for them. We get heated. It's probably going to end up back in the discipline category if we're not careful there. Be gracious when they do something wrong. Because they're people too. They also mess up. And they would hopefully recognize that as well. And then lastly, if your parents or your family, maybe you're the only believer in your family or your parents aren't following Jesus, what is the best thing that you can do for them is to show them Jesus. By the way that you act, the way that you honor and respect them, Show them who Jesus is through the way that you live your life. That these things aren't always normal. That not every child is doing these things. But if we follow Jesus, and Jesus is asking us to respect and obey our parents, what a powerful witness that is to your parents that know Jesus and your parents that don't know Jesus. I'm running out of time here, but I want to give you 3 quick pieces of advice when it comes to family. Just general advice. This is from the scriptures. James 1:19 says, be slow to speak and slow to anger. And when we're dealing with family, it's easy to snap. It's easy to jump from 0 to 100 when that one comment gets made. When your brother, who's a master at rage baiting, starts doing the circles. Don't let your brother rage bait you. It's too easy sometimes. Be slow to anger, be slow to speak. And I have a feeling your family relationships will improve. And when you do speak, watch that tone. You want to fire up a mom? Throw a little tone in there. Watch how that goes for you. Second, Philippians 2:14. Do everything without grumbling and arguing. Whew, that one hurts. I don't like that one. Do everything without grumbling and arguing. Man, I love to complain. Complaining can be fun sometimes. But no one likes to be around a complainer. And when your parents ask you to do something, we obey. Number 3, Colossians 3:14. Above all, put on love, which is the perfect bond of unity. Above all things, we love our family. They're blood, and we love them no matter what they do or no matter how annoying they are, no matter what they say. But this love is what unifies us. As believers within your families, so above all things, show love to your family. And this is honoring to Jesus. Let's pray.